Today I'm going to show you how to build Season 2 Gauche so he can be amazing. So the first thing you're going to want to do is give him the correct gear sets. So starting off, we're going to have the Secret of the Deep Sea set. Now you can run this on a 2-set bonus or a 4-set bonus if you would like to, but I would recommend the 2-set bonus for now. And the pieces we're going to be using for this are going to be the Deep Sea Scale Fragment, as well as the Essence of the Deep Sea with the Magic Attack main stat bonus, and then obviously the Deep Sea Scale Fragment will then also have Defense on the main stat bonus as well. Then we're going to be going for the Ice Mansion's Remains gear set on a 2-set bonus as well, which is going to grant us an extra 7% in max HP. And we're going to be using the Ice Shoe with a main stat of Defense, as well as the Ice Mirror with a main stat of Magic Attack as well. And then finally, we're going to be going for the Great Merchant's Collection, as this is going to give him a 30% defense increase, as considering he's not really there to do damage, he's only there to supply buffs. We just need him to survive for as long as possible. And we're going to be using the Silk from a Village, as it'll give defense main stat, as well as the Perfume from a Village, so then we can also get the Magic Attack main stat, so our skill 1 can at least do a little bit of extra damage. But if you were to go ahead and actually want to use the 4-piece set of the Secret of the Deep Sea, I would then try and pair that up with the Great Merchant's Collection instead, so then you can get the extra defense bonuses for even more survivability. So then in terms of all of the substats you're going to want for Gauche, pretty much it's just anything to help him survive, so anything like HP, defense, damage resistance, you name it, anything that'll increase how much he can survive in a battle will make him really, really good, and that's pretty much it. So let's move on to what are his best talents. And starting off, we're going to go for his attack talents. All it is going to be the 7% increased magic attack buff, as well as the Battle Frenzy, because you might as well get some of that extra crit rate. And then the Carvestone you're going to want is going to be an attack and magic attack increase. Defense talents are also pretty straightforward. Increased defense of 20% is going to be great, as well as the endurance buff, so you can get an extra 4% defense and then an extra 2% crit resistance at the start of every wave. And then the Carvestone is just going to be just the flat defense increase, so you can just be as tanky as you possibly can with all of these other talents. So for his support talents, what you're going to want the most is going to be the Mage's Blessing, as it'll have a 20% chance to grant a reduced skill 2 cooldown by 1 turn buff at the start of every turn. And as most of Gauche's value, if not all of it pretty much, comes from using his skill 2 to give the damage buffs, you're going to want to be able to have it as for as long as you possibly can, so this is the perfect fit. And then the increased damage resistance is also great because it doesn't really necessarily benefit off of anything else. And then finally, the support Carvestone slot is going to just be a speed increase, so we can get his buffs off as soon as possible. So next up, we have all of his best skill pages. So I thought I'd just start things off and say that his regular skill page, or his actual specific skill page, Angel Statue on the Beach, is really, really bad. Do not use this, as the upgrade effect it goes on to a skill 1, which will basically grant you the effect of whenever you land a crit, you'll remove 1 instance of continuous damage, which is just useless. And then the passive skill is also very similar, so it's just completely useless. So his actual best in slot skill page is going to be Insatiable Quest. This is a fantastic supporting skill page, as whenever he'll use a skill 2, he'll grant a 10% increased all attack buff to the ally with the highest attack stat for 2 turns. So it should pretty much be going on to literally any DPS that you currently have, and considering his actual skill 2 is also giving all attack buffs, it means you're going to get a pretty sizable all attack buff. Then we have Funeral skill page, Overflowing Lust. This is just so you can give a 10% increased mobility buff upon using skill 2, which is kind of okay, it's decent, it's nothing too crazy, but it can then become a 50% chance once at level 6. Valto's Cultist Retribution is going to be another good one, as it can give a 5 all the way up to a 20% increased mobility buff whenever using your special skill, although his special skill is a bit hit and miss sometimes, as you kind of just want to be able to get as many attack buffs as you possibly want with him, so it means you're kind of using not using his ultimate as much as you might want to, but regardless, this is still a fantastic skill page for him. Then we have Vengeance's skill page. This just allows him to heal a little bit whenever he uses his skill 2 as well, and then literally anything that can help him survive, like Moonlight Necklace, will also be okay, as well as Breath of Wind will actually be relatively good because it'll make you immune to stuns and stuff like that, whilst also being able to heal yourself a little bit as well. And this stun immunity, or just status element immunity as a whole, will allow you to get all of your buffs off on your first turn, guaranteed. And then as well, Adventurous Journal is also okay because it just makes you a little bit tankier. So that's it for skill pages. There's really not a lot of great supported skill pages, which is honestly unfortunate. So now that you know how all the ways you want to build this guy, I guess it's time to go over what he actually does. So starting off with his skill 1, Mirror Sunbeam, this basically will grant a level 1 weapon enhancement buff, which is just a 30% damage dealt increase to all allies when HP is equal to or above 80% for 1 turn, which is actually really, really good. Pretty easy to get off, not too bad. And then we have his skill 2, Mirror Burn. This is going to basically allow you to grant a single ally an increased all attack buff of level 3, which should be a 50% increase in both attack and magic attack, whilst having a 60% chance to grant an ally increased penetration level 2 for 2 turns as well, and that can be increased all the way up to 100% once at level 5. And then it will also grant an ally Intense Sunlight, which is basically just a 5% damage dealt increase buff, and this buff is also irremovable and can stack up to 3 times, which will give you 15% increase. And then we have his special skill. This will basically use 10% of Gauche's current HP to grant all allies a 30% damage reduction buff for 2 turns, whilst increasing their accuracy on a level 3 buff buff, which is a 32% increase, which will then also then give them a continuous damage immunity, which is honestly kind of useless. So onto his passives, and let's start with his unique passive, which is basically just whenever a buff expires, he'll grant himself 15% of his max HP as HP recovery, so very similar to what Raya's is. And then his enhanced passive is basically whenever he uses his skill 2, he'll then grant a random ally intense sunlight as well, which is really, really good. And then finally, his combined attack is actually, it's okay, it's nothing too crazy, as it'll basically grant an ally an increased crit rate level 5 buff for the partner's attack, whilst also having a 50% chance to grant that partnered mage a 10% increased mobility buff, and this can be increased all the way up to 60% chance for it to happen, and then 20% increased mobility. So it's not too bad. I thought I'd include it here because the crit rate is always nice, so a decent DPS support. So next up, we have all of his best team comps, and considering Gauche is a DPS support, we're going to want to pair him with some pretty good DPSs. As the first pairing I'm going to give is going to be with Fauna, as Fauna is actually a really, really good pairing with Gauche, as because Fauna also will increase her own all attack by a 40% increase on a level 2, and then with Gauche's skill 2 then increasing it on a level 3, means you can get a pretty sizable increase in all attack, which is going to be really, really good. But of course, the best pairing will always be Noelle Silver, as the attack buff, and also the all attack buff in general, will make sure that Noelle's skill healing barrier is going to be completely massive. It will be so very, very powerful, and it'll be very difficult to break. And then not only that, you'll then also be able to benefit off of it with her ultimate, as her ultimate will then increase her magic attack even further, which is just unbelievably good. So we've also then got Valtos, as Valtos is also going to be able to increase the magic attack of an ally, which will just give you so many buffs and so many damage increases, it'll be ridiculous. As well as his ultimate, once again, Myriad Black, giving all of your allies a 20% increased mobility buff, so then you can allow your Ghost to then get all of his buffs off even quicker. And then Rada Spirito, again, he's just unbelievable. This character is so good, especially because of his ultimate number 1 call, as I've mentioned many times in previous videos, which honestly just makes him just a fantastic pairing with literally any character in this game. He's just so good. So then finally, we have his skill level priorities. So his biggest priority in terms of skills that you want to level up is going to be his skill 2 Mirror Burn, as instead of his intense sunlight damage increase being 5%, you can increase it all the way up to 10%, which is going to double it, which will then in turn basically allow you to give a 30% just flat damage increase for permanently on one of your allies, and potentially multiple of your allies if you have his enhanced passive, which is going to be really, really good. And once it's level 5, you'll be able to guarantee that you grant that specific ally that you give the all attack buff to a level 2 increased penetration buff as well, which is going to be unbelievably good. And then his special skill is just going to be the next one you're going to want to level up, because it will give you up to, I believe, a 10% increase in damage reduction once you get it all the way to level 5. So instead of his ultimate giving a 30% reduced damage taken buff, it will then be a 40% reduced damage taken buff instead, which is also going to be fantastic. And then I'd probably say after that, it's probably the combined attack after his special skill, because the skill 1 is just there to do damage, and that all it has is damage increases, so it's not really that useful. So if you want to upgrade the combined attack, you can, but you don't really need to. And then finally, the skill 1 Mirror Sunbeam you can upgrade as well, as just more damage is always useful, and that's pretty much it. So there you have it. That is a complete guide to the brand new Season 2 Gauche, and he's a really, really good damage support, has a lot of really good value. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below whether this helped you or not, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.